We've got 4 exciting first panelists right here. It's time to get started. And this panel is much about it's now time to get serious and get down to action. It's my job to ensure that we do more than just talk here for the next 2 hours. So for this, I need your help. Perfect. After a quick introduction, each panelist will start pitching to you one crucial point that came out this morning in the workshop sessions for our rectors and presidents to take up and do something about at their universities. Once done, you will have a chance to add 2 or 3 additional points that came out this morning that you feel are really important. And then we're going to put these points up for a vote to see what kind of resonance and engagement we have in the room for these ideas. So the rectors and presidents are here and will of course hear this, which we're very pleased about. We will then ask our panelists to comment on the voting results and see what kind of further insights they may have about this, ready for the rectors panel that follows right after this session. So let me introduce the panel to you now. On the screen you will see what each of the panelists will have to say about responsibility and sustainability and what universities should do about it. Professor Omid Ashari is Associate Professor of Strategic Management at the University of St. Gallen and consults in the area of leadership development, and his research focuses on personal mastery. Janina Kavietzel founded the social and environmental impact focused student consultancy Student Impact, formerly Oikos Consulting, and is a PhD candidate in sustainability management at the University of St. Gallen. Professor Olivier Greve is professor in human geography at the University of Fribourg. His research focuses on management of water, land, and national parks, and he is, among other things, a member of the Swiss Sustainability Platform for Research. And Marlene Shahakian is a researcher in the Industrial Ecology Group of the University of Lausanne and leads a project on energy consumption among Swiss households. She is interested in identifying opportunities for transitions towards more sustainable societies and has completed a research on food consumption in Mangalore, India, among other things. So, let me now turn to Omid for his first crucial point from the workshops this morning, and that should be pursued by our rectors and taken up by university strategy.
Thank you. So, the statement I would like to make, triggered by the workshop, as well as the following inputs today, is about faculty. We heard before, business as usual is not an option anymore for our world. Peter Drucker once said, universities are the dinosaurs of our time. Will they survive? So it's about choices, it's about decisions. And we heard early morning about that diamond model Dieter Euler showed about responsible leadership. It included action, reflection, how to reach the hearts, the emotions, and also how to expose to experiences. So how can faculty be exposed to relevant experiences which are also shaking up, which are emotionally relevant, in order to accelerate the transformation of universities? And one suggestion which came in the workshop was whether one could expose faculty, encourage them to take part in field projects which students go through, thereby allowing them to get touched by it.
Thank you, Omid. Janina.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I had the chance to attend a really great workshop in the morning with a lot of interesting discussions concerning the goal of today's Sustainability University Days to prepare and develop future responsible leaders. And as a result of some of these discussions, and like we could already hear, for example, in the welcome note from Professor Billig, the importance of experience-based learning. And I really want to focus with my message on this experience-based learning and also integrate a student perspective. So students, as far as I can see it with Student Impact and also with Oikos, they really look for practical work opportunities beside their academic education so that they can directly apply what they've learned in their studies. Because sometimes the classical knowledge transfer is just too abstract, so that students often cannot really imagine what some specific concepts, issue, or topics actually mean in reality. And for the understanding of the concept of integrated sustainability and that the students, so the leaders of tomorrow, can really apply and implement it in the future, it's really an important thing that they understand how this actually could work in practice. And hence, one possible starting point for faculties could be the creation of a platform where students, graduate and also undergraduate students can directly gather experiences by different projects related to their studies, but also in relation to sustainability. So that, because the combination of the academic education and the practical work experience opens new perspectives to students and also deepens the understanding of all the complex current challenges and also the understanding of different sustainable problem-solving approaches.
Thank you. Passing on to Olivier.
Yeah, hello also from my side. We had a very interesting workshop, and it was about the platform and how the platform can deliver some services to the research communities at the Swiss universities. And the discussion was then much more because of the inputs of different people from universities, how research and how sustainable development is anchored, embedded, positioned at the different universities, and what are the different experiences of this positioning and problems of governance inside the universities. And I think what under the line comes out of the discussion we had is about what Herr Schneidewind was talking about, a joint definition of research questions. It's very simple to express and to articulate, but I think it demands the rupture, the disruption of power structures and relationships inside the universities, in the sense that relationships of domination of certain disciplines, of the certain faculties, has to be somehow challenged in order to make it possible to come up with a joint research question. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges of the universities today, is to disrupt these existing relationships of power in order that we are able to come up with joint definition of research problems.
Okay, thank you very much. So our workshop this morning was on how to transmit knowledge across generations. Why are we constantly reinventing the wheel when we talk about sustainability? And one of the ideas we had was to consider the campus as a living laboratory, to put sustainability research and teaching into practice on the campus. So why the campus? Because you do have these different generations that are all in the same space at the same time. And the scale of operations and range of activities that take place on campus are also very interesting for those of us working on sustainability. Now, some of you who already work on sustainability on campus may be saying, okay, we do this already. We're already addressing mobility, heating, cooling, and things like this. The difference with the Living Lab approach is that it's highly collaborative. So we're talking about co-creation and co-design. Imagine the Living Lab as a giant sandbox where teachers on their way to the classroom, or students on their way to the cafeteria, or even neighbors walking through the campus might be invited into the sandbox to engage with new ideas, new actions, or new things, and to play with these things. And I guess the hypothesis is that by engaging, reacting, and sharing knowledge, hopefully, you would be doing something a bit more innovative in a creative and playful manner. This is something that we're trying to explore currently at the University of Lausanne, and it would be interesting to see it spreading across Switzerland.
Thank you. Okay, so many of you have been in other workshops. Any additional thoughts? We have four proposals in the area of faculty, area of education, research, and institutional change. Other voices? We've got a microphone available. Okay.
Okay, my name is René Schwarzenbach and I'm still sort of ETH. Let's put it that way. I was in the student workshop and there is one thing which I think is extremely important to me, which is our students are the most powerful community to make a change, I guess. But these students need help. They need help from the top of the university. So it's bottom up, but it has also be helped from top down. So my feeling is, and since we are preparing sort of the rector's discussion afterwards, my feeling is that the issue of sustainability and sustainability in education, in campus, in research, whatever, is the job of the rectors and of the presidents. This is my firm belief.
Thank you.
May
Okay,
I make
let's
a
stay
second
with
point?
one for the
Okay.
let's stay with one for the moment.
Okay.
Alex, I heard you as well.
Thank you. Alex Bakawi from ICOS. We heard in the workshop this morning that publications in A journals are the key criteria when appointing new faculty, and that this is a huge impediment to getting faculty on board that focus on sustainability because A journals don't publish sustainability related topics. So my question or hope is that at least the weighting of A journal publications could be reduced a little bit and other criteria could be increased a little bit in the selection processes.
Thank you very much. Other inputs? Right over there.
I'd like to conclude 2 points out of our workshop. One was already mentioned. That was the question, where is the institutional level that should be addressed in order to achieve the maximum of power that it gets spread. But I think we have that already. The other thing is that was discussed, what is actually that criteria that you can measure sustainable development? If you can measure sustainable development, then you know that you make contribution to sustainable development. That was also a question arised in our workshop.
Okay, thank you. And one last one from a new person, anywhere? Okay.
Hello, I'm Nadine from the FAOSN, the Swiss Federation of Student Organization for Sustainability. And we have a lot of our members fighting for really basic stuff at the universities, like having vegetarian food in the Mensa and don't have those one-way cup for our coffee. And we have all of our members are fighting for the same things, and it's just in every university it's different to get the things done. And I think it's really basic, and we don't understand why it's not easier to make those change happen. So.
Campus change. Okay, thank you. All right. I think that seems to be, we have a very tame audience here. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to need your help, and this is probably a good moment. It's quite warm in here. You may be starting to feel a little dip, so now I'm going to need your help in terms of showing your support, and you have here a whole bunch of ways that you can react to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run you through the options, and simply by trying to generate a bit of feedback of what you think is actually really critical. And of course we can say everything is, and actually everything is. We're just trying to gauge a little bit of where you think we are. So I'm just going to propose the various suggestions that have been made. Actually, a number of changes have to do with institutional change, starting with what Omid was saying, enabling the faculty to be the change we want to see. by engaging them in similar experiences that we're hoping to engage our students in, so field projects, if you notice that really being an example. So give me some reaction to this. Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, all right. All right, that gives us a bit of a, now you see what the other no votes will need, huh? So we'll see how the others do in comparison to this. Another proposal in terms of institutional change, we just heard at the end as well, we're saying we need to lift the change in the campus. So we need to make sure that we are actually living the example in terms of sustainability across campus. What do we think? What do you feel about that? How important? All right? Okay. People are waking up, very good. And what else? Oh, we've had another institutional change idea, which came from Marlene, which had to do with saying, what if the campus was a living lab? What about if we would engage more in collaborative and participatory processes in order to change forward? And kind of the sandbox idea. Let's create a space where we can transform together. What do we think about that? Yeah? Yeah? So actually, I really like all of these suggestions because they have to do with the institution itself having to be the role model, which is doing what we're saying, what we're preaching. So let me now move on to education, which was the proposal by Janina, who suggested that we need to complement classroom knowledge with classroom knowledge acquisition with experiential learning with either real companies or in the fields, depending on what is happening. So what do you think about that? Not only classroom, but actual fields. That's all. No, nothing more. Yeah. Okay. Research. Olivier had suggested that we need to be disrupting the power structure between faculties in order to come up with a real joint definition of interdisciplinary research problems. Imagine we had 90% of faculty here. That would really make it easy to change then. Huh? Okay, and lastly, we also had the ideas. Oh, we had another faculty idea which said from Alex about adjusting the weighting in how faculty selection is taking place. I'm disappointed. Students, as a last kind of a stakeholder in transforming this, we had, I forgot your name. It's okay, thank you. Suggest that students are our most powerful force of change, yet they do need the support from the top. So, So it's everything, huh? With very little differences. Let's do another round and get some insights from this feedback from the audience. Ami.
Yeah, it's a very lively audience, for sure. I find all the points very relevant. It's difficult to choose from them. I think the voting showed it. I want to take up one of the points, namely youth, young people. If you look at the history of humankind and how social transformation takes place, we can see that the big drivers of such transformations of organizations, organizational systems, social systems are young people. Why are they young people? Because they bring new mindsets into the game. They have a future to live, which goes far beyond counting years, and there's a lot of aspiration, a lot of hope, a lot of concerns, especially if you look at the conditions of the world today. So this is definitely a very powerful source of transformation which universities can tap into. And I personally think that this is the key for accelerated transformation in university institutions.
Thank you.
So I think it's an amazing audience here. It's great that all these recommendations find such a great feedback here in the audience. If some of these recommendations could be when we could work with some of these recommendations, it would be amazing. Then we can go the next steps to bring in more sustainability in the different areas. And I'm also convinced that we could support the students and all the students' projects because they need the help and they are really powerful and they do a lot of work.
Thank you. Olivier?
Yeah, I think the problem, it was discussed this morning, is collaboration, is how to collaborate, how to make the collaboration across disciplines, across faculties possible. And to start with is just to know what others are doing in the same field or with the same approach or with similar topics. And I think it was raised a couple of times that we don't actually know what colleagues at the same university is doing in the field of sustainable development. And I think to create now structures or possibilities, platforms, networks, whatever, in order to enable this collaboration, I think this is what is ahead of us. The collaboration, despite now the fierce competition for resources inside the university, between faculty members, etc., and despite the focus concerning publication also on disciplines.
Thank you.
So it strikes me that in hearing all of your applauses that we are in fact preaching to the choir. And that everyone in this room is interested in sustainability, that's why we're here. And maybe the challenge is getting others, as you were saying, to engage towards sustainability, but maybe calling it by another name. Maybe it's about health, maybe it's about, I don't know, respect for cultural diversity, justice, what have you, but I think we have to be doing more bridging and less bonding, probably.
Thank you very much. This is a perfect transition to the next slide because it's quite easy as a setup of what I've done so far by saying we've got 4 outstanding personalities afterwards in the panel. Let's just give them a few challenges and we can sit back and see how they react to this. It's not that easy. We believe that it is everybody's responsibility, and no matter whatever role we have in universities, to do something about it. So the next few minutes is about trying to set that stage for that. And all of you are here because you are playing some role in your institution, university, business school, be it. So let me try and frame that a little bit. I think Uwe said before it is 1:30, and with that he may have also implied that it's not 5 minutes to 12, but after 12. I don't know whether you had intended to say that, but I think it is relatively late. And I think we need to recognize that there is no plan B. I'm going to briefly, as a framework, suggest the visionary work that was done in a project called 50+20, which outlines the challenges and opportunities for universities in the coming decade. And if you really think about it, we have 3 options. The first is business as usual. Right? You see this little unfriendly face in there, right? I think as Gabi has pointed out very, very clearly, that is not an option, and I think everybody here is, and this is a little bit the challenge that we have. We realize that, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Option 2 is what most of us have some part of, which is incremental change. And this has resulted that we have actually, despite a lot of great efforts in the last 20 years, we're today worse off than we were 20 years ago on a global scale. So this clearly is not enough. The third option is really a radical, transformative, deep change. And for that I'm going to just briefly take you through the summary of what this management education for the world proposes. It just talks about management education as a part of universities. My apologies for that. It has the Chinese universities in the meantime have decided that this works very well for their Chinese universities as well. I don't know what the relevance for the Swiss universities is, but I'll leave the judgment out in that. Basically we said a business school has 3 roles: The first is in educating and developing globally responsible leaders, which plays right into what Gabi was saying before. We need quite different kinds of leaders, and these different kind of leaders need a different education. The second role is a bit more challenging for universities because it is a redefinition of their research purpose. By giving research a purpose, which is a very, very highly debated thing in universities for very solid and important reasons. Here we would say actually the challenge for business schools would be to enable business organizations to serve the global, the common good, and to help business organizations in that transformation, which is a transformation at the leaders level and at the organizational level at the same time. So it requires entirely different research methodologies and different engagements with organizations than we have so far maintained in most of the research that we do. It also introduces a third role, which talks about the convening power of universities. If we invite, people show up. So we have the possibility to really place an important role in the societal debates. And the suggestion here would be that professors and faculty embrace their public intellectual role that some play so well, and that we engage in the transformation and business and the economy. Remember back in 1992 in Rio, where business realized that they need to play a part in sustainable development. The business school community has been largely absent from that discourse, the public discourse, and I think who would be better placed than business school management professors than being active thought leaders in this space. I'm just going to hand the microphone around again to see whether we have any reactions.
I'm all for deep change. No, is collaboratory implying therefore this collaborative process? And I think that's key, bringing the different stakeholders to the table. But how do you do that? Is finding out what's relevant to them and trying to make it meaningful for all those involved. I think that's often the challenge.
Yeah, of course. I think it's clear it's deep change because we are late, and I think we don't have much time really to choose the second option. I think it also means that the role of universities will have to change in the sense that the from modernity inherited picture and role of the university as the provider of solutions for problems defined by society, I think, is now over, and that we will have to change our perspective in the sense that we will have to look out what societies are developing for ideas and initiatives for solutions, and then try to think about these solutions and how sustainable they are, what are the consequences, the good ones, the bad ones, etc. So I think the position of the university will have to change also in this new challenges.
I mean, Gabi Sedlmeier has pointed it out very nicely. It is absolutely possible, increasingly, to do business very successfully without any university education.
Also, in my opinion, it's the right time for a change, and we have a lot of possibilities for this change. And with this collaboratory idea, I mean, it's great to get students, faculties, experts, universities, whole, also with the private market, businesses, all together, in my opinion, can create great solutions for some of the challenges we face at the moment.
For me, the question which comes up, Katrin, based on what you showed, for me it's also clear that there needs to, deep change needs to happen. The question is, what's the legitimization of universities in a world which is under turmoil? And would we build universities again the same way if they wouldn't have existed already? What would we do? What would be different if we would had a second chance to do that? So what we're doing now is a renovation process. It's a revitalization process. And I personally think that every change, because we are speaking a lot about sustainability, is only then sustainable if there is a mindset change started by. Without a mindset change, I don't think we'll be able to sustain the changes which we desire to see at universities.
Thank you. With this, I'm just summarizing the morning discussion as well that Dieter Euler has shared with the workshop in the afternoon, which talks exactly about how do we get to this mindset. We're using two examples here in terms of saying we really need to totally change the degree of engagement in learning, and you can see the stepwise progression in there, and that is of course a significant change, because on one hand we are asking our faculty to integrate new topics, but more fundamentally we are asking them to engage in learning, or to engage the students in learning in an entirely different way, and that requires additional skills that they haven't necessarily developed so far in their professional career. A second input, and then the work is on you, is the following. I think if you look at, and I'm just using education here as an example, if you're implementing change in learning, we can move on in three different stages. You can look at bolt-on initiative, you can look at built-in initiatives, or platform solutions. We talked about this a little bit earlier as well. So a first order change is basically to say, to take the three enablers in developing responsible leaders. So let's say transformative learning, which has to do with developing the leader within you, issue-centered learning, which has to do with a transdisciplinary approach to learning rather than a subject-related learning, and the third enabler, which is reflective practice and fieldwork, which Janina has mentioned, is to say, like, well, these are clearly distinct isolated approaches that are added here and here. In a second order of change, where we start to build in solutions, we're starting to combine these approaches. And in the third order change, we really say, how would it look like if we put everything together? What would education then look like? And just so much about education, what I'd now like to do is turn the attention back to you, because that's kind of my promise of making you work as well as the rectors panel afterwards. Given all of your roles and the inspiration that you have received from us, is, you know, if the time of action was really now, and maybe still is now, even though we've now talked for 30 minutes, what will you do differently tomorrow? Why don't you turn to your neighbor and discuss this? So, before ending with the panel who will share with us what they will do differently tomorrow, so you've got a second to prepare, let's hear a few concrete actions and commitment promises. This is not aimed at our dear rectors and presidents. This is your sharing of what you will do differently tomorrow, simply for inspiration of everybody else here. So who's here? Who would like to make who will do what differently tomorrow? Yeah, maybe you can just stand up and hurry up. That's it. Give us your name so we can hold you to it.
Hi, I'm Jean-Louis from University of Fribourg. What I learned today, or what I saw or heard today, is that there are many universities where there are really many ways to change or to implement sustainable development, and not only from students, but from the staff, from the faculty, or even from the dean or so. And in Fribourg, I think this is still a little bit missing. I mean, there are great initiatives taken, as it has been told, on one
and
side
what
or the other.
will you do differently tomorrow?
I'm just introducing my point. What I mean to do is just explaining, okay, we don't have to do only our project between us. We can try to engage faculty and break the barrier. Just being, okay, we do this, but we could do it all together, and not only students, not only from your side, but completely.
So you can help break the structure.
Yes, that
Fantastic.
would be my take
shaking
on
it. All right. Who else? Oh yeah. No. Well, Olivier, if you stand up, you really stand up.
I can sit down. I would like to bring students closer to real-life projects and present them in class. So I think every week I'm going to try to speak to a student, motivate him or her to look at something outside and report to it in class.
All right. So, Other voices? Yep. You got the hardest job, you're running, yeah?
Okay, the name is Schwarzenbach, by the way.
That's right.
What I would do differently, I would try not to fail again.
It's not about would, it's about will, right? What will
I
you
have
do?
I'm over the hill for will. But I can maybe give a little advice, or maybe sort of push something. We had the chance, more than 30 years ago, when we funded environmental sciences at ETH. The president at that time told us, in 20 years you are not needed anymore because ETH is going to be sustainable in every respect. We failed. We failed completely.
Well,
and
I don't
what happened?
want to
Let me say one
turn
more
it to
thing.
preachers, I want to turn it to action. So
Okay, so the action is we have to change the culture in the future. We have to change the way people are rewarded, the people are punished, and only in that way, and this is a message to the rectors maybe, only in that way. We can do little things, we have heard it, but in a way we have to change the culture. But because people are coming out of the university, experience a culture where they studied. And you can have them go to 20 lectures, it will not change if the culture is not the right culture for sustainability.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I will not talk anymore.
Go ahead.
If I had power over University St. Gallen, I would forbid lecturing on ethics, on sustainability, and I would only allow case studies, practice work, field work, interdisciplinary work with people from outside. So not talking, but walking.
All right, we definitely need the young generation now because we're into the woods. Who will do? Where is the young generation? What you will do? Where are the commitments? Come on. Did I see your...
I know what I have to do, but tomorrow I will try harder.
Thank you. Did you raise your hands? Yes, right? All right, can you just pass the microphone, Pat? All right, and then we'll close and invite this young generation up here to close.
I will tell my colleagues in Brazilian universities all that I can reach via social networking or personally that we are late. We could do and much more, and we will. So bringing the experience that I got here today and to the table, and to tell them that collaborative, integrative reflection, that I really pretty like this way of thinking of sustainability and responsibility. And it's all about ethics. It's all about what we do first, then we transform others. That's it.
Thank you. All right, with that, Omid, the final word comes to you now. What will you do differently?
I'm going to set a meeting this year with our program faculty of the SIM program, and we'll share with them the insights from this day and set practical steps of how we can increase the integration of these subjects into the curriculum.
Hear, hear. Thank you.
So I would like, together with my student impact team, to focus more on collaborations with other institutions, organizations and companies so that we can together develop new ideas, concepts and approaches to look in a better future.
Thank you.
Yeah, I promised this was my resolution 2015 to reduce the number of research projects in order to make more slow science, to have more time with the collaborators and with the students, especially for the teaching. And I will ignore in the next appointment commission the impact factor of the candidates.
Hey!
So I'm going going to quit academia and make documentary films instead. No, I'm just kidding. So I was also thinking along those lines, doing less research and invest more time in teaching, but teaching outside of higher education. So I gave a class at a high school recently, and I found that really inspiring. So doing more things in the community.
Thank you very much. Okay. And with this, I would like to thank this esteemed panel that got challenged to actually take action tomorrow, which I hadn't announced. Thank you very much for playing along. And we're closing this panel